And it's
flight now at the moment, so
Hi.
Maybe we can try again.
hey, there
okay.
he is.
There I am. Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks. No problem.
Hello, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Very well.
Wonderful.
Everything's fine. That's usually the first question on Skype, right? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. I think we're ready to go, so I'm going to just turn off my mic and you guys are free to fire.
Woo!
Nice.
Sounds ominous.
Vanion, would you like to start, or should I start?
Oh, you can start.
Great. Dave, it's great to talk with you, especially about at least Patrick and my favorite game. And one
Glad to hear
question, we're just trying to work through the most important questions for our community, and then we come to our special favorites, right? Okay for you?
All right, that sounds awesome.
We will have a new raid instance in patch 5.2. It's called Throne of Thunder.
That's right.
Our question is, because we couldn't find anything yet on the web, will there be some form of gating for this instance? There's a lot of bosses, so will we see them all on the first day or not? Probably we don't, but...
Yeah, there's a lot of bosses. I think the plan is that it should be available on day one of the patch, so you should be able to jump right in. And it's a linear progression, so it's going to take a while for people to see some of the later bosses. There's a schedule for Raid Finder, and I don't remember the schedule for Raid Finder. I don't know if we've posted it yet, but you would anticipate that the Raid Finder is broken up into 4 segments of, I think, 3 bosses each. And
it's 13 or 12 altogether?
I think it's 12, and then there's a 13th bonus boss. If I'm remembering correctly, I'm beginning to doubt myself. Yeah, the 13th bonus boss is only in heroic mode, and he's kind of the super secret boss that you'll find underneath the Thunder King's throne. But Raid Finder will open up over the course of a few weeks, and I think it's the first 3 bosses will open up a couple weeks after the patch launches, and then every couple of weeks we'll open up another wing of Raid Finder. So if you're only playing Raid Finder, it'll take a while to kind of see all the content. But really good guilds can dive as far as they can get into the realm of the Thunder King right away.
Oh, we're looking forward to see that, because we're in contact with 2, I think both of the 2 most successful German guilds. So most likely they will keep us posted what's happening there. You said a super secret 13th boss. Will there be anything special, like special hard modes you have to complete before you can see him, or will we just have to play through the in quotation marks, just have to play through the normal mode in order to see him?
He's heroic mode only. I know for sure you have to beat the Thunder King on heroic to see him. I don't know if you have to beat. I don't know if you have to beat the other bosses on heroic, but I know for sure you have to beat the Thunder King on heroic.
So this boss we won't see if we're playing.
Yeah. Right? There's a good chance I'll never get to see him either.
Okay. A couple of days ago, I saw an interview where you told viewers about, it's like kind of a couple of months or even a year or longer ago, about the scenarios in Mists of Pandaria.
Right.
And maybe you can give us an impression how good or bad they worked for the players and for you, and if there are going to be some changes in 5.2, like solo instances or solo scenarios or something like that.
Yeah, so scenarios was kind of our big experiment this expansion, and let's see. So there's kind of a mixed bag. I think if you play through all the scenarios, you'll see some of them are longer, some of them are shorter. We definitely think the shorter scenarios felt a lot better. So going forward, we're going to try a lot shorter scenarios. We kind of liked that some of them felt very open. An example being the Unga Ingu Island, where when you get to stage 2 of that scenario, everybody can kind of fan out and explore the island, and there's always kind of stuff to find, and so it plays differently every time. We really enjoyed that. So some of them have worked well, some of them haven't. We kind of think the short open ones sort of worked the best. One thing that we just discovered from watching players and looking at how people are playing 5.0 is that sometimes scenarios could take longer than a dungeon. Like some of our dungeons are pretty short, but
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, it didn't feel nearly as rewarding, and that seemed to be a problem. So we have a few ideas for things to do. I believe in 5.2, there's a chance of getting much better rewards in the little scenario satchel. And then in 5.3, we actually have some plans for sort of challenges that you can do in a scenario that'll give you bonus rewards if you can accomplish them. So
kind of a time challenge or something?
Possibly. That's something we're experimenting with. I hate to talk about stuff before we're sure it works. So we're playing with it though, because we definitely want scenarios to be something you could jump in. You know that they'll be fairly short, but that they should really reward you if you really skillfully complete it. So it's something we're looking at, and we're still going to tinker with them. The second half of your question was, are we going to see any solo scenarios? And there actually are a couple instances of solo scenarios. So we tried a few things with patch 5.2 that you'll get to see. One of them is that whenever the server unlocks a next chunk of the island, you don't get to see that unlock until you as a player complete a scenario, and the scenario is a solo scenario that kind of tells you the story of how the next sequence of the fight happened.
But that's going to be a one-time thing. Do I get it
exactly,
right?
That's going to be a one-time thing. Yeah, you can't repeat those. So they're just sort of really flavorful kind of custom events for your character. So, for instance, when you blow up the walls to the Thunder King city so that you can get into the inner city where all the Zandalari are, there's a whole scenario that you play through where you blow up the walls and you storm in through with all your Blood Elf friends or the Kirin-Tor. So that's pretty cool. It also gives us something that we can do in 5.2 that I'm excited about, which is there's a server progression to the island. But we wanted to make sure that if you came to the party late, your character was a little bit behind, you couldn't play for a few weeks. When you get to the island, you don't miss any of the excitement of unlocking all the new sections. So if you come to the island, months later and the island is already completely unlocked, when you get there, you're still going to see the first phase of the island, and you can sort of complete the scenarios back to back to see how your faction advanced all the way up the island until you're caught up with everybody else. That's pretty cool. I like that.
One question, because I think it's interesting for myself especially. I saw you guys developing more and more content for smaller groups of people, starting with the old raids with 40 people, going back to 10 people. Then we got the 5-player heroic modes. We got 3-player scenarios. We got the 1-man Brawlers Guild. Do we have some kind of? Are you planning on some kind of single player? Kind of not a progression PvE content, but something like that? Something challenging you can
probably the Brawlers Guild will fill that niche. I mean, if you really want to test your sort of combat prowess, then we'll do the Brawlers Guild. We've also had a feature that we've been talking about that we're tentatively calling Proving Grounds that we're experimenting with. So we don't know if this will go in the game or not. But the idea is you can run through a challenge that tests your skills as a tank or a healer and kind of gives you a rating so that you can kind of brag to your friends like, oh,
that sounds awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it's something, but we don't know if we can like really quite pull it off. So we're playing with that idea right now, and we'll see if we can get it into the game. We love that idea, but we just don't know if we can do it effectively. So there's that. I don't think we'll do a whole lot more sort of single player progression-y type stuff. I guess sort of the larger trend is not that we want content for smaller and smaller groups of people. It's just, we just want content for every way that you can play the game. And so we definitely had lots of great group content with dungeons and raids all along.
Definitely. Sure.
And we thought like, sometimes people don't want to have to group up to see stuff. They hit max level, and we wanted to give them lots to do. And that's why we had a lot more emphasis on max level sort of daily quests and things like the Brawlers Guild that you can kind of do on your own or with small groups to help flesh out more of different ways that people play the game.
Okay. I saw a screenshot. Was about, I think, questing and rare NPCs with a scaling system of hit points depending on the group size you're playing. Can you tell me something about that?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. We have a lot of bosses in the game. Pardon me. And we have a kind of scaling flag on it. So as more people pile on to fight the boss, he'll get a little bit tougher, so you can still see his abilities and still see what's going on. It's still definitely the fight's
Do you have to
easier.
be grouped?
No, I don't. You don't have to be grouped. He'll just sort of respond to how people are fighting him.
So if somebody's attacking him and I attack the boss as well, he's getting twice the hit points or something like that.
It's not quite twice the hit points. He kind of scales up a little bit, and so that the fight actually plays out like a fight instead of sort of him instantly dropping dead like a sack of potatoes. Sure. Yeah, and it's not something it's a fairly quiet system. It's not too flashy. It just sort of makes sure that the fight is interesting even with multiple people.
Couldn't that be a problem, especially if you are on, let's say, for example, for a PvE server with the opposing faction, and somebody already tagged him, and just 4 other guys tag him but don't fight?
Yeah, it could be exploited, and so we're watching it closely because we can always pull that off. I don't see a whole lot of people abusing it, and at the end of the day, if the monster has more hit points, the fight lasts longer, but skilled players can still take him down. So, presumably, if a group of trolls came by and dotted the guy and then ran off, the fight's not broken. You can still beat the guy.
Okay, because I just met a couple of rare mobs in Mists of Pandaria, and some of them were, compared to the old ones, depending on the class I was playing, quite challenging.
Yeah, well, definitely, definitely the rare spawns are meant to be challenging, and most of the rare spawns are kind of tuned for a couple players, either one really good player or at least a couple players,
or at least a Beastmaster Hunter.
Yeah,
like
and I don't know if we have scaling on those guys necessarily. I mean, it's really only
okay.
It's not something we use universally. It's only like quest targets when we think that a whole bunch of people are going to fight this guy at once. Yeah,
and basically anybody who tags him will have the right to loot the mob, right?
Well, that depends. So we definitely set that up for quest mobs so that you like everybody's getting credit for killing the quest mob that they're fighting, but we don't want to do that universally because that encourages some bad gameplay. It encourages kind of everybody to sort of zerg as a big massive group without talking to each other and just try and tap everything so that they can scoop up all the loot, and that's not fun gameplay. So,
I understand. Yes, true. I read something actually that the moment I read it, I decided to create a level 1 Warlock because I heard Warlocks are going to get green fire, and I thought that sounded awesome, and I wanted to play a Warlock.
Cool. I didn't think that feature would encourage new Warlocks, but here we go. I guess so.
Yeah, and what can you tell me about that? So basically, the thing I heard is in 5.2, Warlocks are going to get green fire, but Patrick told me there's a really cool class quest involved, a new class quest. So maybe you want to tell me something about it.
Yeah, you've got a ways to go because you have to get your Warlock to level 90. So start.
Why to go?
yeah. Get to work on that. And then there's a quest chain that starts with a rare drop off various bosses, rare spawns, or mobs on the 5.2 island and raid. That'll kick off a very cool Warlock quest chain. And part of this quest chain is actually a solo scenario, like you were just asking about, where you kind of really got to use your Warlock skills through. Well, I don't want to give too much away, but through an instance,
just a little bit.
Yeah,
just a little.
Yeah. But you get to revisit the Black Temple, which is pretty awesome. And we put that in the game, and that'll allow you to unlock green fire for your Warlock. It's pretty challenging, so you'll have to be a skilled player. I suspect that we'll possibly in later patches we'll increase the drop rate of that, so that the Warlocks that are having trouble getting it will eventually make sure to get a chance to do that quest line. Let's see. Yeah, Warlocks, green fire. It's pretty awesome.
Awesome. And we're talking about the class quests. I remember a lot of players who started, I don't know, even in the closed beta on the US realms, and a lot of them loved the old class quests. Not every class had one. Mm-hmm. Are you planning something? We were talking already about something new, especially for the Warlocks, who already had in Classic, I don't know, the Mount. I think they had a huge class quest for the Mount. It's the same true for the Paladin.
Big deal back in the day.
I know. I played a Paladin, and pretty much the same for me when I tried to get the epic riding mount for the Paladin. Are you planning something in terms of class quests for other classes?
Yeah, so here's the thing I tell people when we talk about class quests, because we love class quests. And one of the things I do as lead quest designer is I sort of decide what everybody's going to be working on the quest team and how we juggle our time. And the original plan for Mr. Pandaria, I had a plan up where we were going to do a class quest for every class. And we wanted to make them big, meaty quests, so we allocated a chunk of time for every class and then spread them out among all the designers. And when you tally up all the classes in the game and all that time, it was a significant chunk of time. It was actually the same amount of time as doing a whole new zone. Mm-hmm. So the decision was, do we cut town-long steps, which everybody will get to play through, or do we do class quests? And we decided it's better to have content for everybody. Sure. So it's a significant investment. If we want to make really cool class quests, which is what people want when they talk about class quests, then it's a significant time investment. So we don't want to give up on that. But I think what we'll see is a lot more like the Warlock quest, whereas we'll pick key classes that we want to talk about. Warlock's got a big upgrade in 5.0. They got a lot of new class mechanics in 5.0, so it seemed like a fun place to tell a Warlock story. Because certainly there aren't Warlocks in Pandaria, so otherwise they weren't getting a lot of attention. But we'll probably pick and choose classes in the future that we can kind of give that treatment to.
On a side note, we read something about, let's put it that way. Ghostcrawler mentioned on Twitter a big, cool new feature coming in Mists of Pandaria, similar to the looking for raid system or the looking for group tool. Can you tell me something about that?
Yeah.
At least a little bit.
I can only tease the same way that Ghostcrawler teased. We are looking at something pretty cool for the last patch of the expansion that'll help give players a lot of new content to play with. So,
the last patch of the expansion.
Mm-hmm.
Do we already have a time frame for that?
No time frame. Although we have our goal is more rapid content delivery. So the first patch was about 2 months after, and then this patch 5.2 should hit a little bit more, roughly 2 months after this last patch. We're going to try and continue that schedule as long as we can make sure that we're going to hit the right quality bar and give people content at the right time frame.
One thing, I mean, the gaming experience and the playing experience is very different for every player, for sure. For me, for example, in the beginning, I started only playing PvP, mm-hmm. and when I leveled to level 60 back then for the first time, I basically grinded my whole way to level 60, mm-hmm. and then I started playing Mists of Pandaria with my level 85 char. And try to get level 90 as soon as possible to be ready to raid as soon as possible in Mists of Pandaria. But when I played my second character, I really enjoyed the questing. I think the quests were really well done. It felt really good. The leveling experience was really good on my second char. Because on my first char, I still kind of tried to rush through the content.
Right, absolutely. I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you very much. It's like the Pandaren say, slow down. It's sometimes it's really enjoyable to take your time through some of that content.
It was really astonishing because when you're used to playing an alt and you just have all the heirloom gear and basically you see the experience bar just popping up step by step when you finish quests, and most of the time I wasn't even able to keep up with my trade skills remotely because I leveled so quickly that there was no chance if I got gathering skills, for example, to keep up mining by the point I was level 25 or 30. But on the other hand, when I reached level 90, there were tons of daily quests. And especially if you were raiding, they felt kind of mandatory because you kind of needed the bonus rolls, and you had a system where this boss would give me a bonus roll or give me loot in theory that I could use. A lot of the times we had to be really quickly when rolling on the original loot because we wanted to have the chance to get the bonus loot and not have to waste a roll. To be honest, and for me, the daily quests were at some point a little bit too much. I just stopped them. I just didn't even continue to do that. I felt for myself, if it was kind of a weekly thing, I had, I don't know, 15, 20 different quests to choose on a weekly base, that would have felt kind of okay-ish. But every day logging in and kind of having to go through 1 hour, roughly, approximately 1 hour, 1.5 hour of mandatory questing, didn't feel that good. What kind of feedback did you get?
So we always learn lessons from an expansion that we carry forward into the next expansion. So with Cataclysm, it felt like unless you were kind of in a guild raiding or doing the heroic dungeons, there wasn't a lot to do with your max level character, and so we wanted to give you lots to do. And we certainly succeeded in that. There's a ton of things to do, but a lot of the things you just keyed in on is the feedback we got. The dailies felt mandatory to you, you said, and they definitely weren't intended to be mandatory. We didn't have this thing like, oh, I have to do my dailies every day so that I can keep up with my friends. But that's what a lot of people felt like. They felt like, oh, I have to do these because I need to buy the purple gear from the vendors, and I need to get those charms. So I feel obliged to do all these quests every day. And that wasn't our design intent, but that's definitely the feedback we got. So we're really looking at how we rewarded and incentivized those quests, and we're saying like, this made players feel a certain way about dailies that wasn't the intent. We wanted you to just feel like there's a plethora of content to do. Whenever you log in, you always have something to do or to work on. We didn't want every day to log in to feel like you just said, I have to do an hour worth of dailies. Well, that's not at all what we wanted. We wanted you to kind of pick and choose and do as much as you felt like doing whenever you felt like doing them. So we definitely learned that lesson. If you take a look at the 5.2 dailies, they're separated from sort of the important power gear that you're going to get. So the 5.2 dailies are much more of an optional thing. That there's a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun rewards you can get from it, but it's a little less like I have to do these every day to keep up with my guild, that kind of thing. It's a lesson we're looking closely at Pandaria that we're going to carry forward to future expansions. I like that all the content was in there. I like that when you hit max level, the game isn't over by a long shot. And even if you never set foot in a raid, you still have tons and tons and tons of stuff to do and to unlock and to earn with your character, which I think is cool. I think the problem is that feeling that they're mandatory, and that's something that we needed to fix.
Since our time is almost up, I wanted to ask Patrick. Patrick, you got tons of questions regarding lore and storyline, and I, for myself, I gotta admit, I'm not into lore at all. I horribly failed when we had a quiz on a World of Warcraft lore a couple of days ago. So, Patrick, maybe you want to ask a couple of questions there.
So the Ragefire Chasm was remapped in 5.0. And there are Fel Orcs now, and in light of the connection between Fel Orcs and the Hellscreams as a family, can you tell us will we see this instance as a heroic level 90 version in the future or something else?
No, we're not going to see a heroic Ragefire Chasm. However, everything that Garrosh is experimenting with down there will come into play at some point in the near future. So you will kind of see a continuation of that.
But even if we connected to these Fel Orcs, that's right.
That sort of story, the Ragefire was a lot of Warlocks experimenting with stuff originally, and so the revamped Ragefire from 5.0 sort of shows the next level of that. Shows a whole lot more experimentation going down there. I don't think we'll see an explicit connection between Garrosh and the Fel Orcs because he's got issues with what his father did anyway. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, then Dalaran. We know Dalaran is moving, and my question is, will we see this in-game?
So if you go... we don't spell this out explicitly in the game, but if you go to Northrend now, you're really kind of traveling back in time. You're kind of going back to Northrend as it was during the battle with the Lich King. So you're kind of seeing Dalaran as it was in Northrend if you go back there, and we might make that more explicit later. We might actually show you going through a time portal at some point, so to make that clearer to the player. so in present day, Dalaran is in motion. We don't say where, and we're not sure if we'll show it in game somewhere else yet. We haven't decided.
Yeah. But in a later patch, there will be $2 that, can be.
Well, in a way, there were, because in 5.1 you could visit Dalaran and sort of see it present day for the questing.
Okay. We talked about Raiden, the heroic only boss in Thunder. Can you tell us a little bit about the lore of him? Because he is not a Titan, but he's a Watcher, like I don't know.
Yep. So we had hinted with the raids in 5.0 that the Mogu were Titan creations, and when you go really dig really deep into some of their buildings, you'll see a lot of Titan artifacts and Titan stuff. In 5.4 we kind of make it, or I'm sorry, 5.2 we kind of make it explicit that the Thunder King had actually taken his power from this Titan keeper and locked him under there. But yeah, he's kind of the last remnant of the original Titans that came through and had originally created the Mogu, and had originally created the Veil of Eternal Blossoms. And the Veil of Eternal Blossoms, as we've hinted at, and we'll spell out a little more explicitly in patch 5.2, is much like Sholazar Basin or Ungoro Crater. It's sort of a cradle of life that the Titans use to experiment, and that's why the Pandaria has so many different types of creatures that you haven't seen elsewhere, and so many different types of things happened.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Then my last question is, can you tell us how many content patches we will see here in Mists of Pandaria, or number?
Yeah, I don't think we want to say yet. We have a plan, but I don't want to sort of say the plan. Yeah.
But okay, George. You?
But so I'm gonna continue with that last question. You're not going to say how much, but I felt in the last expansions, at least in the Ice Crown phase, the last content patch till the next expansion lasted quite a while.
Yeah,
I think it was almost a year. Do you still plan on such a long phase?
That was a real problem. That was definitely a problem. And so let's see, it was almost a year with Ice Crown, and it was nearly a year with Deathwing. And I'll tell you, people were pretty sick of Deathwing's back by the time that Pandaria came out. And that's
true.
Yeah, that's a shame. So we're actively trying to organize our team so that we can not leave people hanging for that long between expansions, but it's a real shift of gears for us. So it's difficult because it takes a lot of time to get a whole new expansion out in a way that people feel like Pandaria is a meaty expansion. Like, it feels like there's a whole lot of content in there, and we want our expansions to feel that way. So, but it's a problem. We're committed to shortening that time. We're committed to making sure that players aren't left hanging for a long time. So. We're definitely working on that. Yeah, and you keyed in right to it. It's definitely a problem that we want to fix. We don't want to leave people hanging that long.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very, very, very much, Dave.
No, thank you guys very much. Great questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Cool. Thanks, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great evening, or whatever time it is there.
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah, okay. Have a very good night then.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye, guys.